Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Tana, and I love to talk about stories of all kinds. Mostly I'm invested in books, and lately I have been invested in The Wheel of Time. This video is actually going to be referencing The Wheel of Time Amazon Prime TV show. In preparation for season 2, I wanted to talk about things that I liked and disliked, things that I thought worked or absolutely didn't work from the first season, just getting into sort of the balance we found between the two. Please also keep in mind that these are my opinions, and I would love to hear yours. I do not care if you disagree. That is totally fine. In fact, I encourage it. If you have a thought or something you disagree with me on, please add it to the comments. I want to have discussions about the series that I've grown to love, and I want to talk about the TV show and how it treats the story that we love. The one thing I will say is I am not a fan of comments addressing maybe the attractiveness level of an actor, and I don't really respect insulting language about an actor as a person. If you don't like their acting, that's totally fine. But these are people doing their jobs. Little spoiler from my what I liked list, I liked a lot of their acting choices and the casting choices. And I'm not insulted if you disagree with me, but I do not condone disrespectful, unnecessary language when it comes to your opinion on how attractive they are, again, or on who they are as a person. And the creators of the show, though I think they mess up in a lot of ways, also don't deserve hateful comments. There are things that I'm pissed about or things that I think are ludicrous, and you can say that and be honest, but please just try to use respectful language in the comments. Obviously, this is going to be a very passionate topic for a lot of us because we're passionate about the Wheel of Time. So let's hold to that and not get, just don't be rude. But feel free to talk about how you feel. Be honest about how, frustrated you are, but keep it civil, keep it respectful, and I didn't do it. So if I like something you dislike, that's okay. So for me, honestly, the list is kind of balanced. I will say a lot of the things I liked feel like nuggets of hope, and a lot of the things that I disliked feel like they better fix that or things will fall apart. It's understandable if you maybe don't have a ton of hope in the next few seasons that they produce. Also, there's blue jays screaming in the tree outside my window. I also haven't had time to rewatch the first season. I've watched it twice through, but I'm not really in the mood to go back to it again right now. I'm watching a bunch of other things. I'm very busy with my full-time job. So I'm basically just going to talk about what I remembered liking and disliking, what lingered with me, and I asked my sister for some reminders and my husband as well on their kind of views on it, which helped me remember what I liked and disliked. I'm going to jump into the dislikes just to get that out there. I think that's probably what people are most interested in. And I think I have a little bit more dislikes than likes, but my likes are strong. That'll make sense soon. The dislikes are kind of nitpicky because the world is so vast and obviously very difficult to adapt. But anyway, Wheel of Time, series by Robert Jordan and concluded by Brandon Sanderson. Excellent series. I'm on book 12 right now. I've been mostly listening to the audiobook, so I'm taking my time with it as I read other things physically, but I care a lot about it. And when I saw the show, I had only read book 1, The Eye of the World, from which this show is based, and it made me want to continue reading the series to know how well did they get some things, how damaging were certain choices of the creators of the show. And also, I just wanted to dive into the world. I kind of fell in love with the world in a new way because of the show, and I'm grateful for it. I probably wouldn't have continued reading as soon had I not watched the show. So, from a person who really kind of got into the book series from the Amazon Prime show, that says something about it that I think is important. It still has a love for the show even if it just doesn't get it sometimes. Jumping into what it just doesn't get for me. Also, real quick, I'm going to be getting into spoilers for season 1 of The Wheel of Time, but I'll try not to be too spoilery for later books in the series. I might hint at certain things at implications, but I will not go into detailed specifics. Mostly just talking about season 1. If you want to go watch it, go watch it. If you just want to hear about it here, hear about it here. I won't get into full summary. Perrin and Mat's origins are something. Perrin starts out in the show with a wife, and a pregnant wife too, and he's a blacksmith, and so there's this establishment that they're all a little bit older, which is fine, but then the transition from innocent youth, innocent young man and woman, like with the different characters, into adult is a little bit different. There's some sense of like innocence and adventure in these young kids starting out and then growing into their very adult and very strong leadership roles often. And I think with Perrin, I understand where they're coming from, but I just felt like it was unnecessary. Having read Perrin and loved his arc, I think that you can just not give him a pregnant wife that he accidentally unalives, because that was unnecessary. I think that the right move would have just been to make him a blacksmith's apprentice and kind of give him that, like the seeds of the axe or the hammer. Am I destroying or building? Am I, like, who am I? But I do love Perrin. I love the casting of him. I kind of picture him that way, which is interesting. And then going on to Mat, I don't know how I feel about his parents being scum. They suck in the show. They're horrible. In the books, most of the family units are pretty strong in just because of the sense of community, which is the important thing for a lot of characters to remember, is that sense of unity and like neighborliness that actually persists throughout the series, that like people bond in that way. And it starts out with like not that innocent world that they break out from, but a fairly non-innocent one. With Mat, I think it's just unnecessary. It shows a truth to him that he is kind and that like he cares for his sisters, and there's something about Mat that is going to do the right thing and cares about people who are under his wing, so to speak. But I didn't like it. Also, I saw a comment once that said that the women's circle in their village would never have stood for his dad's behavior or his mom's treatment of the daughters. Like, neither of them, they would have been taken care of or like scorned to the point of better behavior. And that was lost in the show. They start out with such a non-innocent place for these characters that them going out to the world isn't as much of a shock, other than like the cities are large and I don't know. But with that, I also think like Mat just gets into trouble, and we don't need it to be for some heroic reason. He's just kind of a stinker at the beginning, and that's okay. The other thing, character-wise, probably the biggest thing for me, I'll just jump right into it if we're talking about the main 3 boys, is Rand and his relationship with his father. I have a whole video about this. I will link at the end. It's one of my favorite things that I've analyzed about the Wheel of Time is that Rand's identity starts out as, I am Tam al'Thor's son, I'm a sheep herder, this is the life I live. He's very comfortable with it. He's a hard worker, he cares, he loves his father so deeply. It's so much of who he is. And so when the Trollocs attack in book 1 at his little farmhouse, and he's separated from the village, so it's just him and his dad gets injured and he has to take Tam back to the village. Again, I have a video about it. I reread these chapters to get an understanding of it. Rand's character is questioned, his identity is questioned when Tam starts going off about how Rand basically isn't his actual birth child. And even though the spirit of it is what matters, that he's Tam's son, that Tam loves him, that he raised him with all the love a father could, it doesn't super matter necessarily that he's his birth father, but it matters in that Rand cares about it. It affects him and it makes him question who he is, because he identifies so much with being his father's son. In the show, the whole show makes it that Rand's identity is Egwene. And I don't want to diss on that, because I love Egwene and Nynaeve. I love their arcs. I think that they are very powerful. I'm really liking Egwene with the political stuff right now with what I'm reading. And Nynaeve's always as stubborn and feisty and defensive as she is, like a powerful character and a very powerful channeler. So there was no question for me in reading the books about like the feminism in it and the strength in these women. Even though I've been told it's not as feminist as I want it to be, that's fine. You can have that opinion. I love these female characters, these two specifically. And yet they had to like add in that Rand's going to be there for Egwene, and that's the as important as that might be later in the books. I don't know. Like, I understand what connections they're trying to make between them both being important in like the end times of things. It's so weird because, just slight spoiler, Rand has relationships with other women. And so this deep connection with her, I didn't mind that he had a romance with her. I didn't mind that their relationship was more adult than in the books. That was okay for me personally. But his identity went from, I am Tam al'Thor's son, I'm a sheep herder from the Two Rivers, I love it here, whatever, to, I am Egwene's man, I want this future with her, I want to be her husband, I want her to have my baby, I want this, like, even his vision at the end, that little, like, trick, that little trap of the world with Egwene, that's Egwene's own vision that she has later in the process of becoming accepted, and that is a spoiler, but I don't think it really matters because that is Egwene's vision later in the books, and it's given to Rand, and it just is so silly to me that they would give that to Rand when Rand's identity is not in Egwene, and it shouldn't be, and in the books it just isn't. It's not. They are connected, sure, but that's not it. That's not how it works. And so we immediately lose Rand. And then not to mention the fact that the whole time it's like he's worried about Egwene and his bond with her, and it becomes about her. They push Rand to the side to sneak him out as like, oh, a reveal, he's the Dragon Reborn. The people watching who haven't read The Wheel of Time, I don't care if you wanted to surprise them with that. That was silly. Hiding that reveal that he was the Dragon Reborn didn't matter. It wasn't a twist. The book is kind of clear about it, that everyone's kind of special, but Rand is the guy. He has an isolated moment. Everyone in the Two Rivers is fighting the Trollocs, but he's alone with his dad. There was a point for that, and they didn't show that scene. And that is one of the most damaging things that implies to me that our characters may not be safe in the hands of these creators. That's just a general statement. I'm not saying that they've ruined the show. There are so many things I liked about it that I'm going to get into. But, gotta be careful with Rand. He's a very interesting chosen one character. He's way more complex than just like, I would be Egwene's warder. When like that doesn't, like, that's not even, now I'm getting mad. And again, it's because I love these characters so much, but I just don't think that they understood Rand. I actually feel like they understood other characters a decent amount, but not Rand. And then when the 5 from the Two Rivers leave, they are told that any one of them could be the Dragon Reborn. And there's just something funny to me about the fact that they're like, even the girls, part of the point of the dragon is that he's frightening. All that these people have known for a very, very long time, generations, is that men who can channel are dangerous because the male half of the source is messed up. It's cursed. It makes you go mad, and you basically are just doomed after that, after you start channeling, if you're a man. And so if the women are the Dragon Reborn, that's probably what they would hope for, because women who can channel are not cursed. The female half of the source is not affected that way. I wish when they left the Two Rivers that Tom had been with them the whole way. When he shows up to the village, it's like, oh my gosh, a Gleeman's coming, this is so exciting. It's like a really great moment because of, like, for world building, and you get more of the character. He's more present. But in the book, in the show, Matt and Rand run into him briefly. They don't really connect with him long term, and then they're separated because Tom saves their life. And it's just kind of meh for me. But Tom, something I didn't love about him is his casting. I joked with my husband that he's almost too much of a DILF. And I know that, like, Tom gets the ladies. I'm gonna respect that. But he's lacking the whimsy of a Gleeman. He didn't feel like a Gleeman. He felt like a hardened man just singing a song in a pub. And it was like, he also plays the flute, and that's kind of silly. And I'm so sad he didn't teach Rand to play the flute. And here's the thing, it doesn't really matter, but it does, because that connects Rand to something still innocent from an old friend who helped him, and it kept them alive in book 1. It was one of my favorite arcs that Mat and Rand had to perform to feed themselves on their trip to Caemlyn. And also the fact that they didn't go to Caemlyn, it's fine, but weird. We had to show the White Tower early on because the Aes Sedai are so awesome. Anyway, I think Tom is lacking some whimsy. I think he's a little bit too young and handsome. I think he honestly should look a little bit older and have a mischievousness about him. But also, he's just kind of a dorky old man. Like, sometimes he's just a dumb old man. I don't know. He's not always cool, though he is very cool. I think it should be more subtle. I think he should come off more as a whimsical gleeman, because that was his opening role. That's my opinion. The end of the show is also a big complaint for a lot of people, myself included. It already doesn't make a lot of sense. Eye of the World is a bit confusing, is a bit weird. It's one of his messier endings, Robert Jordan's. But then the show did other things that also was stupid and dumb. And in trying to show how channeling too much of the power can destroy a person, they with Egwene and Nynaeve do like a dying and coming back to life thing. That does not happen in the books. That is silly. But I feel like they could have kept more to the actual end of the book, because there was this sense of like old fantasy, like traditional high fantasy, that was fun, even if it didn't make a ton of sense, because I was pretty confused. I think maybe one more thing I'll touch on. I think the Aes Sedai are given this view of being totally awesome. Even the bad ones, like, it's just like, oh, there are some bad Aes Sedai, instead of questioning the power dynamics with the Aes Sedai. Because I think that the creators want to be like, look, women are awesome. Women are awesome. Robert Jordan does an amazing thing with some really bad people that, like, in their death scenes or in their own POVs, they remember their childhoods or things that they care about. Family members, loved ones, bonds to people that matter to them, and innocent parts of them that make them human and that make them somehow empathetic, even though they've done horrible things. Whereas in the show, it's just like, the good Aes Sedai are the good Aes Sedai, and we don't need to question them. Even though we're observing this warder loses his Aes Sedai, and it drives him to a deep depression. Lan's mourning the loss of a warder, that didn't bother me. He is a stoic, but I think that there is some point to the release of emotion in a ceremonial sense that I didn't mind. And I don't think that people, I don't think that people fully understand Lan. And I think they expect of him this coldness that Rand has, but so much of his coldness and his stoicism is depression because of Lan's own grief in the series and because of his own abuse through the warder bond. Not that Moiraine intends to abuse him. It's not, she cares about him. They have a genuinely, I love their relationship in the show and in the books, but the warder bond as a tool is, in my opinion, to an extent, an abuse of power. It should be addressed that it is unfair. If a warder loses an Aes Sedai, they lose themselves. If an Aes Sedai loses a warder, it still has an effect, but it's not as painful. And that's not fair. That's really unreasonable. And kind of just unhealthy. Not that it has to be super healthy, because it's a risk that they're taking, but I just think it showcases the abuse of power from the Aes Sedai. And the Wheel of Time is a show about abuse of power. So the Aes Sedai and the White Tower and everything we see there is so loved and worshipped. These women are awesome, even though they're very strict, very severe, very serious. And it's just well, sometimes, and I don't know, maybe I'm being too, but I don't know if you guys got the sense of it, but that's what I got the sense of. There was also use of the oath rod that felt strange. I said I cannot lie, so if they make a promise, I will not do this, they can only kind of skirt around it through loopholes. They can't directly break it. So when Moiraine makes a promise to Siuan, in a ceremonial sense in front of everyone using the oath rod, I don't know why they didn't just show someone becoming an Aes Sedai using the oath rod, or just talk about it. They tried to show it because the oath rod's important, and it is. I understand implications of the Oath Rod. But it was just like, that was weird. That was strange. And also, I think the use of the ways. When they get to the gates, they make it seem like you can only open them by channeling, but the Ogier know how to use them, and they don't need to channel. Anyway, does that make sense why that's silly? It just feels like small bits of world building things that they were trying to showcase felt like they didn't actually get them. I didn't consider very basic and obvious effects on the world building. But that's just me. I've spoken for half an hour about things I disliked. It'll be shortened, obviously, but I need to get to my likes. I think I'll be quicker about them, but I just like some things, and I think there's some good. Many people might hate me for this, but I like the casting for The Wheel of Time. I like future casting, too, that I've seen. Elaine looks like I'm going to want to fight her, and I do all the time, because she kind of bugs me. All joking aside, I thought the casting was great. I don't mind the diversity. The women of the Two Rivers have dark hair and dark eyes. The people do. It's noted that Rand stands out with his red hair and his light eyes. That's fine and normal. And I want to emphasize that I don't think that they just cast for diversity points. I think both Nynaeve and Egwene, the actresses who portray them, they represent them well. I think they do a good job. I think they're good actors, and I think people are writing too much on their expectations. And I think that, would you have been happier if the acting was the same and they were white? That is a question I ask. Because I think that they did an excellent job. I actually picture Nynaeve very much like the actress looks. Because I had only read book 1 and I went on to read, and I was picturing Nynaeve and her little braid tugging and her severity and passion and love for Lan comes out very well. I really like her and Lan's progression. I think the romance is just treated better. I think that Egwene and Rand, even though I think Rand had too much of a focus on Egwene in the writing, I think that they were nice together. Another thing I disliked, though, I didn't like the whole love triangle thing with Perrin. I think Perrin cares about Egwene in the books, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, it doesn't need to be this fight that everyone has between all of them. And that, like, Perrin's wife just died. I really don't think that he's going to be mad about Rand and Egwene and jealous. Like, I really don't. I just don't see it. Anyway. But, see, I'm getting into more negatives. But I do like the romance. Including Moiraine and Swan. People can be bothered by that. You might say it's woke points. I say there are pillow friends often mentioned in The Wheel of Time. And whether or not Robert Jordan didn't want to get into it, whether or not he condoned it or not, doesn't super matter. They existed. And Swan and Moiraine were blues together. They trained. They were raised together in the White Tower. And I would not be bothered if a relationship persisted throughout all of that. Knowing other relationships Moraine's had doesn't even sway that for me a little bit. I like Moiraine and Swan's interactions. They were there for the prophecy about the Dragon Reborn, and then they are the only two alive. So they have this bond about, just as blues do, about doing the right thing, being there for the world important events, and also being there for each other. They've grown up in this and they've bonded over that. It makes sense to me. I just, like, I'm fine with it, and it's okay. I do like that Moiraine and Lan have such an intimate relationship with, like, they share the Aes Sedai warder bond, without it being any sense of romantic, because it's not with them. She's a blue Aja, and they typically are not romantic with their warders, like the Green often are. But yeah, I don't mind the relationship. When talking with my sister about it, she said I could remind everyone that, the scenes with Moiraine and Swan live rent-free in her head 24/7 because she loves them so much and she would die for them. That made me laugh because it's true. We do support. This is a Moiraine and Swan support household. And she loves them. But I think they're good. I think they could focus on it too much and that would be an error. But where Moraine's an important part, especially in the first few books, has such a heavy weight. I think that she can help give momentum to the story going on. People are too worried about the focus on her, given that we need to focus on other characters in the future. But I think because she's such a good actress and cares a lot about this project, I think she can kind of propel it forward, if that makes sense. But there's a way to do it wrong, I admit that. But I like it, I like her, and so on. I don't super care. I like the opening with the two rivers and with the Trolloc attack. I felt like it was sudden in the way that fights in the books are sudden. Robert Jordan, I've said that in other videos. He's done that excellently. I love the visuals. I thought that it looked really good. I think the opening scene makes me want to live in the two rivers. It feels kind of cozy that way. And it's just sweet. I like the boys interacting together. I like them watching out for Matt because I feel like that is true to them. I loved the opening, like, I guess cold open of Rand's mom and Tam discovering Rand when she gives birth on the battlefield. That scene was so cool and very well represented the Maidens of the Spear and how genuinely awesome and powerful that they are. I thought that was really awesome. There is still a love that I can sense from the show. I recognize now I have a lot of dislikes, but it's because I'm passionate. And certain things just didn't make sense, but then there are some scenes that sort of express the beautiful, fantastical world that Robert Jordan created. And I think they're going to do a good job at that in the future. A lot of world building stuff does work. I've seen pictures of the Shan-Chan. I think they look pretty cool. There's stuff with Logain, which I thought was interesting. I think he's really well cast. I think it's important to showcase him. He actually becomes decently important later on, which I didn't expect. And I think that my favorite scene, my sister and I talk about it a lot, is when they're leaving the Two Rivers and they're kind of shaken after the events, and the Two Rivers kids, I guess I'll call them, start singing the song about Manetheren. And then Moiraine proceeds to tell them the story of Manetheren, how important it is to their people and then to them to carry that legacy, where it comes from, and the truth of it. It was so beautiful. The music there, I love that song. This bit of a moment for these characters felt true to the books. It kind of slowed things down in a way that I appreciated. And it was a very... just something about it felt like a warm and cozy fantasy in the ways that The Wheel of Time often does. Like, I can listen to tavern music and read these books and feel very comforted by that, even in a fight scene. But I think it held on to some of the lore there and some of what we love so deeply about The Wheel of Time, that I think the show, if it continued to do that, using the main characters to explore this world and not just showcase how women are awesome and look at all these cool Aes Sedai and let's follow these characters who don't matter so much. If they held to that, I think it would be really cool. And it can easily tie a lot back into Manetheren, and it becomes very important later on. But that scene, the music, and everything is so beautiful, and it kind of holds so much of what I love about The Wheel of Time together. I do hope to get more of Rand. It obviously seems like he's, doing his thing, sort of wandering, realizing he's the Dragon Reborn, all that stuff in the next season, and I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm definitely going to review it here on the channel. But thank you guys for watching. I actually like this show. Again, it encouraged me to continue reading the books, and I see why people have a hard time with it. But I think there's a love here for it that maybe with some guidance, the creators can achieve a good adaptation. I hope there's hope for it because I want Wheel of Time content, and I want the story to carry what I love so dear with respect. I have a lot of fears about season 2, but mostly I'm excited to talk about it with you, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts here about season 1. There's some things I definitely forgot. I'm not going to go into everything, but if you remember anything, you want to know my thoughts, please comment down below, and I'll try to respond in a timely manner. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys probably next week with another video. I'm going to keep pushing through. I appreciate all of you and hope that you have a wonderful day. I will see you next time with another video.